Feeling stuck in your career? How can Stoic principles catapult your career success? Today, we're diving deep into how the ancient philosophy of Stoicism can be not just a guide, but a transformative force in your professional life. Let's unravel 6 powerful lessons that can help you navigate the complexities of modern work life with grace and resilience. Let's begin by exploring the fundamental principle of Stoicism: control. Stoicism illuminates the vital distinction between what is within our control and what lies beyond it. This wisdom is not just philosophical, it's incredibly practical, especially in your career. You see, much of our professional anxiety stems from a preoccupation with outcomes, promotions, accolades, recognition, events that often involve factors beyond our direct influence. Now imagine channeling all that energy you spend worrying about outcomes into actions and responses that are within your control. Think about the liberating shift that occurs when you detach from the what-ifs and focus intensely on honing your capabilities and responding constructively to feedback. Let me share the inspiring story of Michael, a software developer who epitomized this Stoic principle. Michael was part of a competitive tech company, and despite his hard work, he was passed over for promotion several times. Instead of getting bogged down by disappointment, Michael embraced the Stoic approach. He shifted his focus from the promotion itself to his personal and professional development. He sought feedback from peers and supervisors, attended workshops to refine his skills, and volunteered for challenging projects to increase his visibility and value. 6 months into this shift, not only did Michael find his work more fulfilling, but he also became recognized as a go-to expert in his team. When the next round of promotions came, he was not just promoted, but given a choice of departments to lead. Michael's story is a testament to the power of focusing on what you can control: your actions, your growth, and your responses. So I urge you to take a page from Michael's book. Invest in yourself, grow your skills, adapt to feedback, and above all, remember that your career progression depends on the foundation you build through your own actions, not the unpredictable outcomes that often distract and dishearten us. This Stoic mindset isn't just about coping with workplace challenges, it's about thriving amidst them, propelled by a clarity and purpose that are entirely within your control. Now let's delve into the Stoic practice of reflection, an incredibly powerful tool for personal and professional growth. Stoicism teaches us that daily reflection isn't just about reviewing what happened. It's a profound exercise in learning from our experiences and deliberately planning how to improve. This is a transformative habit that turns ordinary days into stepping stones towards mastery. Think about it this way: by reflecting each day, you create a map of your successes and the areas where you stumbled. Now apply this to your career. I encourage you to set aside time each week, perhaps on a quiet Sunday evening or a Friday afternoon, to reflect on your week at work. Ask yourself, what did I do well? What didn't go as planned? What lessons can I take from my experiences this week? Let's consider a real-life example. Think about Thomas, an IT consultant who found himself overwhelmed by his workload. Each week he felt as if he was drowning, unable to catch up or excel. Thomas started to implement this Stoic practice of reflection by dedicating 30 minutes each Friday to review his week. He began to identify patterns in his work, times when he was most productive, and moments where distractions took the upper hand. Equipped with these insights, Thomas adjusted his schedule to capitalize on his peak productive periods, minimize disruptions, and set clear, achievable goals for each week. Over time, this practice didn't just reduce his stress, it improved his output and recognition at work, leading to a significant promotion within a year. This continual loop of reflection and action can do more than just enhance your productivity. It can deeply increase your job satisfaction and engagement. Each reflective practice is a moment of learning, a step towards becoming not just a better employee, but a better person. Start today, and you'll soon see just how much your career and your life can transform. Moving to our third lesson, embracing challenges as opportunities. Stoicism teaches us that every obstacle we encounter is a chance to cultivate virtues like patience, perseverance, and resilience. It's about transforming our mindset to see difficulties not as impenetrable barriers, but as opportunities to grow and excel. Let's consider a compelling example. David, a software developer at a fast-growing tech startup. The company was on a tight deadline to launch a new app, and just as the team was gearing up for the final sprint, a critical piece of software began malfunctioning. Rather than letting frustration take hold, David saw this as an invaluable opportunity. He stepped up to lead the effort to resolve the issue, coordinating teams across different departments and time zones. Through this challenge, David not only developed his technical skills by finding a solution, but also demonstrated remarkable leadership and the ability to work effectively under pressure. His proactive approach not only helped save the project, but also provided him with a deeper understanding of his team's dynamics and the operational side of the company. As a result of his initiative and the successful launch of the app, David received recognition not just from his immediate team, but also from senior management. This acknowledgement led to his promotion to a lead developer role, where he could further shape the direction of future projects. This story exemplifies how adopting a Stoic mindset, viewing every challenge as a pathway to personal and professional development, can significantly alter the trajectory of your career. Embrace these moments, push through the discomfort, and you'll emerge not only successful, but also respected and ready for whatever comes next. Let this inspire you to convert every obstacle into a stepping stone towards your greater success. Moving on to lesson 4, we delve into the power of perspective. Stoicism teaches us a vital truth. Our reactions to events are more about our perceptions than the events themselves. It's not the events that disturb us, but the views we hold about them. This is a transformative insight, especially in the workplace. Imagine you're in the middle of a heated debate over a project direction and tensions are running high. It's easy to take opposing views personally, but here's where Stoic wisdom comes into play. By reframing these workplace conflicts or setbacks as neutral events, simply different points of view or unexpected challenges, you step into a space of calm. You detach from the heat of emotion and maintain your inner peace. This doesn't mean you don't care about the outcome. Rather, you engage more constructively. Take James, for instance, a senior software developer known for his high standards and attention to detail. James often found himself frustrated when junior team members didn't meet his expectations. Initially, he saw these moments as personal lapses in judgment or competence, which created tension and stifled team collaboration. However, when James began applying Stoic principles, his perspective shifted. He started viewing these situations as opportunities to mentor, to guide, and to enhance collective learning. This shift not only improved team dynamics, but also made him a beloved leader, admired for his wisdom and patience. Under his mentorship, his team's performance and morale soared, making his projects some of the most successful in the company. So, as you face your next workplace challenge, ask yourself, how can I see this differently? How can I respond in a way that contributes to my growth and the betterment of those around me? By adopting this Stoic approach, you not only enhance your own resilience, but also become a pillar of strength and a beacon of clarity in your workplace. This is the power of perspective, transforming potential conflicts into opportunities for leadership and learning. Moving to our transformative fifth lesson, practicing virtue. In Stoicism, virtue isn't just a moral ideal, it is the very essence of a fulfilling life. This ancient wisdom teaches us that the highest good lies in embodying virtues like wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. Now let's translate these lofty concepts into tangible career advancements. Consider wisdom. It's about making informed decisions and learning continually, not just from books, but from every experience and interaction. In your career, this means being proactive in seeking knowledge, understanding your industry deeply, and staying curious about emerging trends. Justice in the workplace translates to integrity and fairness. It's about treating colleagues with respect and equity, regardless of their position. Every interaction is a chance to build trust and a reputation for ethical leadership. This is crucial, as a fair environment fosters collaboration and loyalty, which are key drivers of organizational success. Then there's courage, perhaps one of the most vital virtues in a challenging work environment. Courage here means more than just facing fears. It involves stepping forward to embrace new responsibilities, even when they are daunting. It's about advocating for innovative ideas, or perhaps more importantly, for yourself and others when necessary. Moderation, the final virtue, is about balance, particularly in how you allocate your time and manage your resources, including your energy. Achieving a healthy work-life integration is essential, not just for personal well-being, but for maintaining long-term productivity and enthusiasm in your professional role. Let's take the example of Sophia, a senior software developer. Sophia embodied these Stoic virtues when she led her team through a high-stakes project. Faced with tight deadlines and technical challenges, she demonstrated wisdom by guiding her team through complex problem-solving sessions, justice by ensuring all voices were heard, courage by pushing forward innovative solutions, and moderation by ensuring her team maintained a sustainable pace, avoiding burnout. Her leadership not only led to the project's success, but also set a benchmark in her company for how projects should be managed. Sophia's story is a testament to how practicing Stoic virtues can lead to real-world success and recognition. Embracing these virtues isn't just about personal growth. It's a strategic approach to building a career that is not only successful, but also deeply rewarding and respected. Let these Stoic lessons inspire you to infuse every workday with virtue and watch as the quality of your professional life transforms, setting you apart as a leader in your field. Finally, let's explore a powerful Stoic technique known as premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This might sound daunting, deliberately picturing the worst-case scenarios. Yet this profound practice is about empowerment. By anticipating challenges and visualizing how you might handle them, you build an inner strength and resilience that is virtually unshakable. Consider the example of Jenna, a young software developer eager to advance her career. Jenna feared making mistakes that could be visible to her team and potentially halt her progress. To conquer this fear, she began practicing premeditatio malorum. Each evening, Jenna would visualize potential errors in her coding, imagining not only the mistakes themselves, but also her team's reaction and the steps she would take to resolve the issues. She planned how she would communicate with her team leader, the questions she would ask to deepen her understanding, and how she would document the incident to help others learn. This exercise transformed Jenna's approach to her work. Instead of dreading errors, she started to see them as inevitable steps in her professional development and as opportunities to demonstrate her problem-solving skills. Her confidence soared when the day came that she did introduce a bug into the production code. She handled the situation with such composure and clarity that her team leader commended her not only for her swift resolution of the issue, but also for her proactive communication and leadership in the moment of crisis. This Stoic practice prepares you to face workplace challenges not just with less fear, but with a proactive strategy and a calm mind. You learn to trust your ability to navigate any situation, which in turn diminishes anxiety and boosts your confidence. So I urge you to embrace premeditatio malorum. Visualize challenges, plan your responses, and watch as you become more composed and ready for any professional hurdles that come your way. This isn't just about preparing for the worst. It's about transforming every potential setback into a testament to your resilience and foresight. In conclusion, remember this: Stoicism is not merely a survival strategy. It is a blueprint for thriving in the face of adversity. It arms you with the fortitude to transform every obstacle into an opportunity, every setback into a setup for a comeback. These ancient lessons are your keys to unlocking a career that doesn't just grow, it soars. So take these tools, these powerful principles of Stoicism, and wield them with courage and conviction in your professional life. Embrace the challenges with open arms, knowing that each one brings you closer to the excellence you seek. Stand firm in the face of adversity and watch as you not only meet your career goals, but surpass them, achieving more than you ever thought possible. The path won't always be easy, but greatness never is. Forge ahead with the strength of Stoic wisdom, and craft a career that is not only successful, but also meaningful and fulfilling. This is your moment, your opportunity to not just survive the storms, but to navigate through them with unshakable confidence and emerge stronger than ever. Let's step forward into a future where we don't just exist, we excel. Where we don't just get through, we get ahead. Embrace Stoicism, embrace growth, and let's turn the tide of your career towards a horizon brimming with potential. Here's to your success. May you not only achieve it, but redefine it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up by hitting the like button below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means the world to me, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Thanks for being a part of our Modern Stoic Minds community.